World War I began with the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, the Austrian Archduke. He was killed in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia.
Ferdinand was killed by Gavrilo Princip, a Serbian nationalist and a member of a terrorist group called the Black Hand. The following is a visual reenactment of what could have happened that day.
Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. Russia was allied with Serbia, so this made Russia a part of the war, to aid Serbia. Germany, who was allied with Austria, demanded that Russia to stop mobilization. However, this did not go over well. The Germans initiated the Schlieffen Plan, which required them to attack France by going through Belgium. However, Belgium was allied with Great Britain. So, with Great Britain going to war with Belgium, Canada was involved with World War I.
On February 7, 1915, Canada's 1st Division was sent to France. On April 22, 1915, the Second Battle of Ypres began. April 24th marks the first use of chemical warfare. The German army used chlorine gas to make a hole in the Canadian line. However, they lacked the numbers to actually advance, so Canadian soldiers were able to fill in the gap.
On May 5, 1915, In Flanders Fields is written by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae.
Lieutenant Colonel John Alexander McCrae was a Canadian poet, physician, author, artist, and soldier during World War I. He was a surgeon during the Second Battle of Ypres. John McCrae died of pneumonia on January 28, 1918. The Personal Journal of John A. McCrae, May 5, 1915. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the lark still bravely singing songs. No, that can't be right. Singing Fly.
On July 31st, 1917, the Third Battle of Ypres was fought. The Third Battle of Ypres is also called the Battle of Passchendaele. The British and Australian forces were assaulting the town of Passchendaele under the command of one general called General Haig. In the first attack, 20 Australian men, led by Captain Clarence Jeffreys, made it to the rubble of what used to be the town's church. However, the British troops to their right were unable to reach them, and they had to retreat. In the second assault, the Australians lost 3,199 soldiers and were withdrawn from the front line. Canadian soldiers were sent in to replace them, just because Canadians are that good. General Haig still wanted to capture the village, but Canadian General Currie waited for the favorable weather to come, and they adequately supplied. On November 12th, the Canadians took Passchendaele. It is estimated that over 500,000 lives were lost in the 3 months and 6 days of the battle.
The Battle of Vimy Ridge on April 9, 1917, was the single most greatest Allied advance on the Western Front in that part of the war. On April 12, 1917, Canadians took Hill 145, the highest feature on the ridge, which gave Canada the advantage in the battle. 100,000 Canadians fought in the Battle of Vimy Ridge. 10,602 Canadians were wounded. 3,589 Canadians were killed. The Battle of the Scarpe took place during the 100 Days Offensive between the 26th and 30th of August 1918. The Canadian Corps advanced over 5 kilometers and captured the towns of Monchy-le-Preux and Wancourt. Lieutenant Charles Smith Rutherford from the 5th Canadian Mounted Rifles of the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division performed actions that would earn him the Victoria Cross. He captured a German party of 45, including 2 officers and 3 machine guns, then captured another pillbox along with another 35 prisoners and their guns.
On November 2nd, 1918, the Canadian Corps captured the town of Valenice. It was the last major battle of the war.
At 10:58 a.m. on November 11th of 1918, Private George Price of the 28th Battalion was killed by a sniper. 2 minutes later, at 11 a.m., the war was over. Canadians revolutionized fighting in World War I, both with the strategic placement of machine guns for both offensive and defensive, as well as the creeping barrage, and an artillery method which required the artillery to shoot just ahead of the infantry to cover them from enemy fire. This was first used successfully at Vimy Ridge. Canada sent 628,736 soldiers to war in World War I. 66,573 Canadians were killed. 138,166 Canadians were wounded. 2,818 were imprisoned before the end of the war in 1918.